President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on China to continue its support for African countries as they continue to promote sustainable development over the next 3 years. The president was speaking yesterday at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, which is taking place in Senegal. Let's listen in.
Over the next 3 years, we will be implementing the Dakar Action Plan. This will require that we recalibrate the Sino-Africa relationship with a greater emphasis on promoting sustainable development for the benefit of all. We must see FOCAC partnership as a vital support for Africa's industrialization and for the realization of the benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We therefore call on China to continue its work of being supportive to the African continent, a support that we do not take for granted, a support that is extended to us in Africa, underpinned by respect, mutual respect, and also mutual intention to develop one another.
Let's take a look now at the long-standing relationship between Africa and China. For this conversation, I'm joined by Dr. David Monyae, who's Director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Doctor. What are the likely outcomes for the summit for both China and the African continent?
I think that there are lots of areas that are going to be covered, and this has to be understood within the context of a post-COVID world order in a evolving geopolitics. And the relationship, I think, is growing, and the numbers tells the full story. There have been more help in certain areas and more investments that have been announced, particularly the 1 billion vaccines, of which 600 million donation and 400 million is going to be jointly manufactured by Chinese as well as African companies. So looking at that itself, I think it will go a long way to deal with the shortage of vaccines on the African continent as the most affected continent in the world. When it comes to investment, I think there has been a number of areas where the Chinese are more than willing to assist Africa in agriculture, in digital economy, e-commerce, which is a new area. And therefore, I think this summit is going to define those areas and how best to open up Chinese markets for African products.
Is this a mutually beneficial relationship, Dr. Monyae, or is it more one-sided, with China being the investor on the continent?
Africa's relationship with the whole world, it's not a balanced. Africa moved from a low base. Its trade with Western countries or any other continent. The balance of trade is always in favor of the other parties. And equally with China, the trade balance imbalances has to be the major priority area for the summit. And this is why the news that Chinese will be opening up their markets for African agricultural products is a welcome one to really have a two-way and fair and equal trade. But as it stands, Africa still produces bananas and raw materials that are not in any way, they added any value. And therefore, I think there is a need to move African products to a next level, add value to create more jobs, and to ensure that relationship with China or any other partner should be equal.
And what are, Dr. Monyae, the long-term returns for China, the reasons why they would want to continue investing on the continent? What traditionally have these deals been looking like?
When you look at China global outlook, China is not only facing the African continent. I think the biggest problem we have with analysts is that they only focused on China, Africa. But if you look, China's relationship with Latin America, with Asia, with Europe, with the United States. So China has a global plan and a global grand plan. And Africa is just but one element to it. And therefore, its relationship with the continent is much more entrenched. It goes back to historical political era of liberation and national movement supported by China during our own struggles. And it moved into trade as China grows. In the long run, I think you're going to see the diversification in terms of global trade routes, Chinese trading routes through the Belt and Road initiative that's going to grow. So will the traditional trading routes with the Western world. And therefore, I think this will give Africa an advantage in terms of choosing priority and looking at terms with each partner that it enters into any agreement with.
Let's focus, Dr. Monyae, on the geopolitics of this all. How does Africa's relationship and growing relationship with China affect Africa's relationship with its, previous traditional trading partners?
The issue is quite troubling that Africa is an equal member of international community. And with 55 African countries, these countries do not have one single foreign policy. Each of the 55 countries have their own. However, on the main, the relationship with China is quite huge. And it has antagonized Western countries, the United States in particular, where the difference between the United States and China, the competition over trade, technology, and the like, and some of those tensions play themselves out on our continent. What is needed from the African side is to avoid getting involved in this tug of war between the superpowers, number one trading partner, as well as number two trading partner, Western world in general, or get involved in their politics, whether hot wars or cold war or any other forms in terms of digital war that we have been seeing really taking place in so many parts of the world.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. David Monyae, for that as we focus on Africa-China relations. He is director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg, and having this conversation on the back of the China-Africa Summit that is taking place. Well,